And I asked the question, I said, what part of the shirt is offensive to Williamson County or to the state or to you? Is it the word Jesus or is it the word America? I want to know. I want to know the answer to that.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Kelly Jackson with the Tennessee Conservative News, Tennessee's #1 conservative alternative. Today, I am happy to be joined by fellow Williamson County patriots Randy Tate and Emma Holmes, who are here to describe the unusual encounter they had on Election Day in Williamson County and how that encounter not only infringed on their First Amendment right to free speech, but it impeded them from access to their ballot and the right to cast their vote for their chosen candidate, at least temporarily. Randy and Emma, thank you so much for being with me today. Randy, since you were already there, from what I understand, when Emma arrived, can you tell us about your initial experience with the polling personnel?
Yeah, to me, my wife and I went obviously to vote and walked in the polling uh, place, and oddly, there was really to speak of, nobody much there. I think there maybe have been one or two people that was actually in the polling place. It was filled with workers, lots of kind people. So I just proceeded to go down, and one of the gentlemen that wanted to take me and do the whatever he does, he pulls up to make sure that I'm registered voter, looks at my ID and driver's license and so forth. He didn't make any gesture as toward my shirt that I had on at a particular time. He didn't say anything about it. He was very kind, amicable. We chatted a little bit. Uh, and it just small talk, just a little bit of small talk. And he pulled everything up and proceeded to hand me my material, which I would need to go vote. And he oddly then pulled it back. He literally bowed his head down and he kind of shook his head. He said, "I hate to be the bearer of bad news." But you are not allowed to wear that shirt that you have on in here. Of course, to
Tell
me,
the audience what shirt you had on.
well, I had a shirt on. It was what I considered to be just a novelty shirt from 44 years ago, a Reagan Bush shirt. Obviously, they're not candidates. They're not in
No.
question. It's a political affiliation. Probably most people don't even know about it anymore, except us older folk.
Yeah.
So I proceeded. It stunned me. It shocked me. And I can be a little bit vocal when I feel like something doesn't make a lot of sense. And I ask him to explain how in the world did they come up with that? What in the world is offensive with this shirt? I have no earthly idea. So of course, nobody had a response. So we chatted a little bit back and forth. It sort of irritated me, Kelly, but I wasn't going to get so agitated by it that it made that, it wasn't a life-changing event for me. And my immediate reaction was, okay, if this is political in your eyes and it's not a big deal to me, I I said, can I slip around the corner and just flip it backwards? I mean, just flip my shirt inside. He said that would be perfect. So I proceeded to do that and flipped it backwards, came back, and was once again, getting my paperwork. And then that's when I noticed that she had come up right behind me. She was the next in line. And all of a sudden, I'm noticing that, she's got this shirt on and they are now telling her she can't wear her shirt. And obviously, we know what the shirt is. It says,
Yeah.
"Loves Jesus, loves America."
I see she's wearing it. Yep.
She's wearing it. Yeah. It's a great shirt. Um, and of course, that's when at that point, I said, this has got to be, there's got to be more investigation. What's going on with this?
Yeah.
I said, what in the world is wrong? So anyway, that's when I got fairly vocal at that point. And I think that without getting angry and without using any sort of foul language or getting too outrageous, I demanded to know what in the world is wrong with this lady's shirt.
Right.
And I asked the question, I said, what part of the shirt is offensive to Williamson County or to the state or to you? Is it the word Jesus or is it the word America? I want to know. I want to know the answer to that. And of course, Emma at that point, she was asking the same questions, and I'll let her chat a little bit about that. So it to me, it was something that I knew immediately. Wait a minute, this is way over the line.
Wrong.
This
Really,
is
really wrong.
infringing.
Yeah.
This is infringing on our rights, even freedom of speech. That was the first thing that kind of came to my mind. It's like, wait a minute, who is telling Emma that she can't wear a shirt that says the name Jesus on it or the word America? Where is the offense in that, and how does that create some sort of an unstable element within the polling place when there's 3 or 4 people even in there at the same, at that time anyway. So I quickly pulled up my camera and I said, I'm going to take a picture of this. This can't be over. So I proceeded to pull my camera out, of which they attempted to stop me from doing that. Emma, you'll verify that.
Yep.
They said, you can't take a picture of that. And I said, yeah. So I had already snapped it and got the picture. And so I think at that point, Em and I both knew the right thing to do at that point was to vote. We wanted to vote, and that we would have to probably take this up later, or we'd have to bring some third-party arbitration, bring some other people into this and help us to understand where they came up with this offense, and where, it was bad enough for me with my shirt.
Yeah.
I let that go because at that point, to me, it's just damage control, just go on down the road. But I felt it was raised to a new level when Emma's highly innocent shirt that just said loves Jesus in America. I found nothing intimidating about that shirt. I found nothing political about it. There's just there's no reason in my mind for that to be banned. Okay, banned.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I probably could have walked in with a Black Lives Matter shirt or Taylor Swift or something like that, and probably would have been fine.
Or Dolly for president, because we've all seen those all over. Dolly for president. I've seen them in all the stores downtown. So now you've gotten there and you've engaged with the personnel there. So what was your experience with those people, and what was the same exact issue was raised for what you were wearing? So can you just then sort of relate that story to the listeners as well?
Okay, yes. So very similar, not very crowded. Everyone's, nice when you first walk up. And I noticed Randy coming from the back hallway, which, I'm just kind of seeing him come back from the back hallway with his shirt inside out. And I'm handing over my ID for check-in, I think to the same man that he was previously speaking with. And I can kind of hear Randy talking that he's, a little bothered. And then the supervisor's over by the man checking my ID at the time. And she goes, "Oh, your shirt as well. You can't wear that here to vote." And I said, "My shirt? Why?" She said, "It's political campaigning." I said, "For who?" It says Jesus in America. And she said, "Yes, it's political campaigning. You can't wear that here to vote." So I'm like, okay, I got this for 4th of July. He was campaigning for. And she said, "Well, I've seen it before," and looks down at the man holding my ID. Said, "You've seen it before," which it's a Tom Petty song. Again, I got it for the 4th of July. So, but still, it's not political campaigning. And that's where Randy starts kind of going to battle for me as well, saying, we're both just in disbelief, questioning, we're just so shocked that this is even an issue.
Yeah.
And she said, "No, I can call up the election officials at this time." And I think both Randy and I were like, okay, bringing in someone else. We're like, "No, that's okay." And at this point, the man that was going to check my ID, he starts to try to diffuse the situation, feel uncomfortable. He offers me to wear his shirt to vote. I said, "No, that's okay. Thank you." Still in disbelief. And he said, "I don't mind sitting here so that you can vote shirtless." Again, I think he's just trying to diffuse the situation with the supervisor that was not backing down. And that's when Randy said, let me take a picture of this. We could not believe this. And so, went to take a picture. All of the volunteers stood up and said, no pictures, no pictures. And much looking back, pretty shocking that everyone stood up and said no pictures, but no one stood up to the supervisor and said, no, that shirt is okay. Or, hey, let's think about this real fast before we say she can't vote. It's just, no, you can't. It was, very
right.
You can't wait out here and get a ballot. So, or I'll call it the election committee. So I said, I'll be right back. I stepped outside, put my shirt inside out, and came back.
Let me ask you really quickly, because I know that was mentioned on the other podcast too, that she said, okay, well, I'm going to call the Elections Commission. Did she actually ever follow through with that?
I'm not sure. Not when we were there.
Okay.
I, again, don't know the rules. I'm running in to vote.
Right.
It's more of a threatening.
You got your kiddos in the car. You just, yeah.
Yes. My dad's waiting for me with my kids in the car. And it wasn't like, hey, let me just call real fast and, double check. It was, well, if you don't do this, then I'm going to call the committee.
Like so she was going to tell on you. Like she was going to report you or something. Oh.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, so
I think at that point,
you both ended up having to just turn everything around and inside out in order to vote, in order to get your vote cast, correct?
Yes, 100%. They would not serve myself nor Emma until we complied.
Wow. So as we all, I don't know, I want to just state this for the audience's sake, because not everybody knows, what the rule is. But we all know, as we're well aware, is that basically what the rules say is you can't be displaying any kind of campaign propaganda within a 100-foot radius of the polling place. And so what I read in the rules said anything of a political nature, but then the second part of the rule says that has to do with a person or an issue that's on the ballot. So what it sounds like she did was she just paid attention to the first part and completely set aside the second part. And so, which is...
I find that odd from an individual who's been with Williamson County, the election committee for all of these years.
15
I find
years.
that very, very odd that someone with that level of experience would
misinterpret it. Yeah.
It's pretty hard to believe, quite honestly, from my perspective.
I think so too. I think
I'm not sure that I buy it. So, but
yeah. So Emma, I know Emma had stated that Trey Hargett himself, he had reached out to you to apologize. And I assume Jonathan Duda, who is the Elections Commission chair, have both reached out to you, correct? What did they say to you specifically?
They just apologized that it happened, said it was a mishap, it was a wrongdoing. They will have more additional training. Apologized that this situation happened, should have never happened. Jonathan Duda said if I was called at the time of the event, I would have, confirmed that your shirt was okay. We didn't take it there again because we just didn't take it there when we were there. But they apologized, said that they'll do their best to prevent this for the future, doing more training, and that we were completely in the right.
So, Randy, did you also get a phone call from Trey Hargett or Mr. Duda?
Didn't get a phone call from Trey Hargett. We did go. My wife and I did go last. I believe that I want to say it was Friday to the meeting. The board. There was a board election board meeting. So we did go there. It was brought up. There was a gentleman that traveled many miles. He was extremely upset about this issue. He was airline pilot, flies for a large airline, but he says that he was tracking this. I'm pretty upset. A couple other people as well were there and expressing their dissatisfaction with all this as well. So, they heard it out. They heard everybody's complaints. Didn't say anything until it was done, and then when people were through with making their statements, and then he did apologize. He did say very clearly. He said we were wrong. This shouldn't have happened. There was nothing wrong with Emma's shirt and even mine, believe it or not. And that
Right.
he
Which
made
common
it
sense tells us.
he made it seem like it was a training issue. And in my mind, it's another thing that makes me wonder, a training issue. So maybe, but he did say that there was going to be, that they're going to look into this and they're going to retrain. They did apologize, and he was really clear that that was a mistake on their part,
Yeah.
a huge mistake on their part. So for what that's worth, that was their response. I felt that seemed to be genuine
Yeah.
from all parties.
Yeah.
So that's where the meeting pretty much left off.
Okay.
I think we were the topic of the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's quite a
there's a lot of
topic.
talk.
It's to, as I reached out to Mr. Duda as well, and he did indicate, as we said earlier, that this person was indeed a 15-year vet working in the polls. So I think we've covered the fact that we don't think that this is just a lack of training, because the information that I've recently received indicates that the interpretation of this law seems to change depending on the political climate at the time. Right now, of course, we're in a very, very contentious presidential election
Hmm.
season.
Yes.
And we know that the elections here, even in Williamson County, I mean, Andy Ogles, a lot of the elections here in Williamson County have even been a bit incendiary. And so I know Emma indicated that there has been a contact with legal, counsel. So have both of you contacted legal counsel just to kind of get an idea of how badly your rights were violated, or and do you think that there needs to be litigation in order to really affect change here in this situation?
Emma, you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I'll start. Well, let me just first start by saying Emma and I have been talking. We've been talking back and forth, since we were the parties involved,
Mhm.
and we discussed that, what you just asked, and we discussed several other thought processes and action plans, and should there be more action. Um, and I think the general first step consensus for myself and Emma is that we want just to make sure, above all things,
Right.
that there's resolution, and that this never happens again, and that there is not a quash of freedom of speech or even religious matters, Jesus or America, that shouldn't be disallowed in a polling place, not in the United States of America. There's nothing wrong
Right.
or harmful about Emma and her feelings toward Jesus or America.
Right.
She wasn't there proselytizing. I wasn't there waving a flag of, Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush from 1988. So I think our primary goals at this time certainly was to make sure that there's a red flag raised on this, and there is new training, and that this doesn't happen again, because I don't know where this wins if somebody doesn't say something.
Mhm.
Freedom of
Exactly.
speech is important, and it's one of our rights. It's
Yeah.
one of our first
Yeah.
amendment rights.
Yeah.
So whether you're inside a polling place or standing in a public library or out in the park, it doesn't make any difference to me. Those places are places of service for us. We are taxpayers. We have rights. We have feelings. And if we want to put something on our shirt that says we love America
Mhm.
and we love Jesus,
Yeah.
I don't see
Right.
where they come in
Right.
and say you can't do that. You got
Yeah.
to take that off. You
It
can't do that.
it
We
seems
won't allow
like
that.
it seems like it's an egregious abuse of the statute, and then the statute essentially is reflected in the county ordinance. So it seems like it's a bit of an extraordinary abuse of the interpretation of that rule. I've been given information from others because, since this happened, and Randy, I know you posted on social media, and then Emma, she was on the Try That in a Small Town podcast.
And I will say it lit up, by the way, and went viral. People went nuts over this, didn't they, Emma? I can't even respond to the people. And I'm a small Facebook participant. I'm not even on Instagram or TikTok. So all I did was paste a simple little that, and that's all it took.
Well, and since that happened, I've had people, because that's what happens. Things like this happen, and then they reach out to people like me without even anybody asking them to, because they've realized, oh my gosh, something like that happened to me, or I witnessed something. And I've had some people reach out to me that were wearing MAGA hats or something with MAGA on it to the polling places, which, as we know, President Trump wasn't on any of these ballots. So it would have been perfectly acceptable for that person to wear that into the polling place and be able to vote with that on. And these people were all asked to turn it inside out, take it off, leave it in the hallway. And so I'm going to assume that none of that surprises either of you. Correct. Yeah.
It does and it doesn't at the same time for me, Kelly. Because once again, we're back to that's this guy's personal rights. You know, for me to impose my rights over his rights, I don't believe that ought to be. You know, for a poll worker to step up and say, "I don't like your hat," and we don't like your hat. So, and you know, they superimpose that over his rights. So from that perspective, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with him wearing that hat in there. Personally, it's his own opinion. And honestly, that hat, whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat, if I walk in there a Democrat, that hat's not going to change my mind. I'm not going to look at that hat and say, you know what, I think I'm going to start voting Republican. I don't know how in the world that would ever affect that. I don't know anybody that would do that. So from that perspective, but I guess if you look at it on the flip end, I could understand maybe if they want to create an environment where there's nothing political from the doors in, then that's okay with me. I wouldn't be overly concerned about that.
Yeah. And then I guess if that were the thing, if that were the rule, then they should make that abundantly clear to people what the exact rules are. But I mean, I guess since we're there to exercise our democratic process and participate in it, it seems almost impossible to not have. But I mean, the American flag being political just seems so absolutely outrageous.
Ridiculous. That's outrageous.
Yeah. So Emma, I mean, I'm wondering, do you think that this is some kind of tactic to maybe dissuade or discourage conservative voters from not just wearing their patriotic gear to the polls, or to just go and vote in general? Do you think that this is some kind of, you know, way to dissuade because we're loaded with conservatives here in Williamson County, and they're really trying hard to flip our county blue. Do you think that something like this, if we have this many people in charge that think like this, in charge of the polls, do you think that maybe it's, you know, a strategy to perhaps dissuade conservatives from showing up to vote?
Yes, I think it could be. Like I said, I was there. My dad was waiting with my girls in the car. If I didn't see Randy flip his shirt inside out, I don't know what I would have done. I may have just been like, okay, I'll leave and come back later. And so I think it could be a way that I would have left and maybe not have had the time or an opportunity to come back. Because I sat there and I was thinking, like, what should I do? Do I push back and just do it? And, you know, I wasn't sure. And so I easily could have walked out and left and then potentially not come back.
Yeah. And then that would have, they would have gotten what they wanted as far as that, you know, if in fact it is. There's nobody that has said anything to that end or made a comment like that to that end, but it certainly seems like if you really want people to come and exercise their right to vote, you would not put any barriers like a t-shirt that says loves America and loves Jesus, or 2 dead presidents on the front of it to come and exercise, you know, their right to vote. So to wrap up, do either of you have a message either for the Williamson County Conservatives or Elections Commission or even Secretary of State Trey Hargett that you would like to convey? And I'll let you decide who's going to go first.
I would just want everyone to feel prepared and armed with the knowledge. I was there, I was running in quickly. I did not know the rules. So when she said I was in the wrong, I just, I pushed back a little bit, but then I was like, okay, I guess so. And so I want, now that I have spoken with the ACLJ and legal counsel, I know, Trey Hargett, I was in the right, we were in the right, but I was not armed with that before. So I want everyone to be prepared, armed, know what's happening at these voting centers. Definitely come November, and just be prepared to push back, to know your rights, and definitely go out there and vote.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people showing up in a Loves Jesus in America t-shirt on, what is it, November 3rd?
I hope so, because we do love Jesus and we do love America, and I'm not ashamed of that. And that's my right to believe that. If the poll workers, which, if they don't agree with that, I'm not going to say anything to them derogative or not, or have that offend me in any way. So, but I agree with them. That's how I feel about it as well. And I think secondly, it's going to put people a little bit more on alert. With those who are serving us in the community. I don't know if the majority of poll workers there are Democrat or Republican. I've heard most of them are Democrats. So I would hope that there's not something there that would want to dissuade a Republican position. But I think at the end of the day, we've all got to stay on alert, and we have to know what our rights are. And we have to stand up for our rights, because they can easily be eroded. We've seen that. We've seen that in the nation. And there's a movement of attempting to quash people's rights to speak or to share or to have feelings, if it doesn't agree with their mantra. So,
I agree. Well, thank you both so very much for your time and for your bravery to speak out. This isn't the instance that we know about. And I'm told that there were many more that occurred during early voting and election day that, nobody said anything. Like you, Emma, I didn't know the rules. You're assuming that authority understands them better than you, and you just want to vote, and they seem to sort of intimidate people into sort of compliance. And so from what I understand, that happened more than just you all. So I am so grateful that you had the courage to just say something and not let it just sit and go by. So let's hope it creates a stir and a shift in how things are done at the Williamson County Elections Commission and all over Tennessee. So thank you so much for just being here with me. And I just bless you both. And I just, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Kelly, for sharing our story. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for allowing me to share it for you. We just so appreciate you.